So if Xi Jinping and Li Xi get their suits made at the same tailor, does that mean that Li Xi will get promoted if Han Zheng retires? Because Chinese politics is so secretive, analysts and political enthusiasts are left to speculate on the future using sometimes trivial pieces of information. It's a ginormous web of personal connections, informal networks, and factions. If Xi Jinping's Chinese zodiac is a snake and Li Xi's is a monkey, that makes for good teamwork. So that might increase Li Xi's chances of being picked again.
We know very little about what really happens in the many important but closed-door meetings at the very top level.
Leadership decisions are announced at the end of the party congress, where the party faithful come together, including this dude, Song Ping, who's 105 years old. Apart from the role of General Secretary, which is almost guaranteed to be Xi Jinping again, Xi abolished term limits in 2018, meaning he could very well be at the top until he's 105. One of the hottest debates is around who will make the cut for the Politburo Standing Committee. It typically has 5 to 11 members, and they're the top decision makers in the country.
It tells us about how power resides, where power resides, how power transits in this system.
It's also closely watched because it could inform who the next premier is, the country's second most powerful person, who oversees the economy and social development.
The General Secretary, namely Xi's role, is vitally important, and he sets the general direction in many ways. But of course, as one of the members of the Standing Committee, the Premier is either the number 2 or number 3 person within the Communist Party leadership.
Keeping up? Current Premier Li Keqiang is likely to retire in March, so speculation is rife for who will take over. Some analysts believe it could be Wang Yang, who's already part of the Standing Committee. He caused quite a stir 10 years ago with something called cake theory, arguing the key to China's economic growth was to bake a bigger cake before dividing it. I can't really remember where I was going with that, but I could really do with some cake. Oh wow, thank you. Oh yeah, that's right. Some people say that Wang's low profile and loyal service has put him in good stead, but he's also associated with some party factions that are out of favour, so that might work against him. I think I agree with Wang on one thing though. We need a bigger cake.
He's probably the preferred candidate by especially the economic spheres. There have been a number of outlets that have suggested that Wang Yang might be actually sort of appointed as the premier.
But over here, you've got Hu Chunhua, who's the youngest of the vice premiers at about 59. He's an absolute spring chicken compared to that guy. Like Wang, Hu has a lot of experience and will probably be promoted to the Standing Committee. But he's climbed up the ranks outside of Xi's orbit.
The argument is he would want to have a more loyalist. He may also have a reason to choose someone who is not exactly just his former aide or something, but someone who has the experience. And also, if the things go badly, sometimes you need a fall guy.
Another name on the tip of many party watchers' tongues is Li Qiang, who doesn't have as much experience as the previous two pollies, but Li is close to Xi, even described by some as his protege.
He did carry out, for example, the Shanghai lockdown as the Shanghai Party Secretary earlier this spring, which was pretty traumatic for many people. But also he was, as a result, a very loyal follower of Xi's as well.
If he becomes premier, it'll really show Xi's muscle within the party.
If we go by the rule, you have to have been a vice premier before being promoted, then it would be a pretty unprecedented move for Mr. Li Qiang to be appointed.
Note everyone's age, not too far from the CCP's informal retirement age of 68, and too old to take over as the head of the CCP. Many analysts believe Xi isn't likely to promote someone who could potentially be his successor in order to eliminate competition. Of course, it could be someone else entirely. We just don't know. There's no transparency. Confused? Me too. Anyway, we'll find out who's in the Standing Committee on Sunday, but we'll have to wait until March for a final announcement on who gets to become 2IC.
I think one thing we know for certain, which is the very top of this system, the very core of party's power structure will not have a female member. If you ask me, to predict one thing, this is my one prediction, which I think will be proved correct.
Oh yeah? Yeah, sure, that's fine, no worries. Because I'm just a 60-something-year-old man who wants to be Premier. See you in March.